Welcome back to Level 3 of our pursuit towards solver excellence. In Levels 1 and 2, we slowly worked through a case that demonstrated some of the basic functionality of Excel's solver add-in. Now that we have the basics down, we'll stretch our legs a bit more and do a more advanced example. In the previous example, we helped the plant manager and marketing department figure out the optimal answer of how many lava lamps to make for the big rollout party. Now envision yourself a few months down the road, and you have the role of supply chain mastermind. I've never seen that one on a business card, but it would be cool. Orders are now rolling in from around the country, and it's your job to coordinate the shipping of the 28-inch lava lamps from our 3 manufacturing facilities in the most economical manner to our 8 nationwide distribution centers. We're going to determine what's the best or most cost-effective way to ship the lamps from the manufacturing facilities in Long Beach, Peoria, and Providence to the 8 distribution centers listed here in column A. Yes, those are real names. I actually looked them up. Each of the distribution centers, or DCs as they're called, have accumulated orders from all their customers, and you've included this demand in these cells here in column B. In order to ensure a successful product launch, we want to make sure that all of these DCs get all the lamps they requested here. First, we need to create a distribution plan for transporting the regular shipments of the 28-inch lamps from the plants where they're produced to the DCs that will then send them on to the retailers for sale to the general public. The scenario in this case is that because of the success of our initial rollout party, these lamps are in very high demand. Typically, you'd want to fulfill the demand of the DC from the nearest factory. However, since the demand is so great and widely fluctuates across the country, management has made the decision to meet the demands of the DCs from any factory that has lamps to ship. We don't want any back orders. We want products in the hands of the customers as quickly as possible. Although this policy to minimize the back orders will result in slightly higher costs, Ken's Office Supplies thinks that since the product is brand new and an increased level of customer satisfaction will aid their social media campaign, so they want to get as many products into the customer's hands as quickly as possible. They want you to come up with the optimal plan to minimize the potential expensive shipping problem. Let's look now what we have here. Down here we see how many lamps each of our factories have on their docks ready to ship out today. Long Beach has 500, Peoria has 475, and Providence has just 325. Here in this area from C5 through E12, we've listed all the costs that it would take to ship a lamp from each factory to each possible DC. Down here in J13, we'll have a formula that ultimately calculates the total cost to ship everything from each factory to each DC. This is our bottom line goal here, so when we go to configure our solver model, this will be our objective or target cell. Now, since I mentioned that this is a cost, we want to minimize this. If that didn't give you a hint as to how to configure our solver model, well, I just hope it did. If this were profit or sales or something where bigger is better, then you'd want to maximize it. Here in these shaded cells, F5 through H12, are the cells that I'll have solver put values into that will hopefully end up being the optimal number of lamps shipped from each of our 3 factories to the 8 DCs. These will end up being our changing cells in our solver model. I have a lot of formulas already completed on this sheet, so let's poke around here a little bit to see what all's going on. Let me turn on my ability to see all the formulas by hitting Control plus the tilde key. If you haven't done this yet, you might want to experiment with it. The tilde key is usually located directly above the tab key on your keyboard. We first see here that in I5 through I12, we have some formulas that add up the number of lamps shipped from the 3 factories to each of the 8 DCs. So if we have 50 come from Long Beach, 50 come from Peoria, and 25 from Providence, then our total ship meets our demand for what Bug Tussle requires, so they're theoretically satisfied. Keep in mind that whatever values you put in these cells, it really doesn't matter because Solver is going to overwrite them when it goes and runs the model. So you can experiment and test out your formulas. In fact, you should, by putting values in here just to play with it. Now look down here at F13 through H13. Here we're summing up the number of lamps shipped out of each of the individual factories in Long Beach, Peoria, and Providence to each of our DCs. So right now this sum function shows that 50 have been shipped from Long Beach out of the 500 they have available to ship. These cells down here in F16 through H16 calculate the difference between what they start with and how many they have currently being allocated to ship out to the DCs. When this value gets to 0, then that means that Long Beach no longer has any lamps to ship out, so that's one of our business rules, or constraints, that we're going to have to satisfy once we get our model up and going. Over here in I-15 and I-16, we're just summing up these adjacent 3 cells. For column J, the total cost column, we only have one formula currently filled in here in our objective cell, J13, and that just sums up these individual DC costs here in J5 through J12. Now for the last function that we're going to use this semester. I know you're brokenhearted, right? It's actually not new since we introduced you to it back in Module 8, but I still wanted to give you a moment to celebrate the last formula. All right, back to reality. So up here in J5, we need to know how much it's going to cost to ship our 125 lamps to Bug Tussle. So instead of multiplying F5 times C5 and then adding that to G5 plus D5 and adding that to H5 times E5, blah, 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 we can use the sum product formula here. Equals sum product. Our first array is these 3 shipping cost cells, and our second array is the number of lamps shipped from our factories to Bug Tussle. Close the parentheses, and we're good to go. Let me copy that formula down by dragging it down or double-clicking down here, and now everything works. Please note that we're using the sum formula in J13 to add up the results of all these individual sum product formulas. We could have bypassed this or done it a different way and just use one sum product formula over here in J13 to multiply this entire array of costs of C5 to E12, and the second array could be this entire grid of F5 through H12. You'll get the same answer either way, so either is correct. I kind of like to see the shipping costs to each of the DCs over here in column J, so I'll leave them there even though they aren't technically needed. They do provide information that's useful. It's always a good idea to test out our model here to make sure that everything behaves as expected. Let me put a 1 in F5, a 2 here in G5, and a 3 in H5. I can either do the math on these, but my feeble brain is overwhelmed by the plans for the upcoming football season, and breaking out a calculator would just make me the laughingstock of the 4th floor of the business building. So I'll put in the costs of 10, 20, and 30 here for a second, and I should get 140, and I do, so this math all works out. Let me undo those last couple of edits by hitting the Control-Z to get those correct costs back in there. Cool, now we're ready to go. We also see that all the magic happening down here in our total area and the number of remaining inventory of our factories are coming out correct, so I trust that we've done due diligence here in this worksheet, at least enough for me to continue with confidence. Okay, it's time to get going on our solver model. We could just try to come up with all the constraints at once, and once you have a good grasp on this tool, you might be able to do that in the future, but we're not there yet. So we'll do this one step at a time just to give you a better grasp on how things work in Solver. As we come up with all the constraints needed to make this work, we'll add them to our constraints table over here in this lower left region of the worksheet. First step, let's set up the basic parameters of the solver model and see how we do and what happens. If we go up to the data, click on solver, hopefully remember that our objective cell here is J13. Since J13 is a cost, and we want this to be as small as possible, then that means that we want to minimize it. Our changing cells are this range of F5 through H12. And finally, since these are all linear formulas, we want to make sure that we have simplex selected here. If we hit solve now, let's see what we get. Well, pakrapicus. I love that word. Well, at least it generated an answer, right? We told it to minimize our answer without any further directions, and it basically said, okay, here, how does 0 sound? You can't get any lower than that. So that brings us to step 2. I guess we need to give it some additional information in the form of constraints. The first thing we need to know from our business rules that we learned earlier is that we need to make sure that each DC gets what they ask for. So we need to make sure that I5 is greater than or equal to B5, I6 is greater than or equal to B6, etc. We could do this as 8 different constraints, but I'm all about shortcuts, and here's a good one. Solver is also capable of analyzing and comparing arrays of cells to each other. That means that I could say that I wanted all these cells, I5 through I12, to be greater than or equal to B5 through B12. Let me add that over here in my constraints table. Each DC gets what it asked for. I5 through I12 is greater than or equal to B5 through B12. Now let me go over here into Solver and see what we get. Let me add that constraint. I5 through I12, highlight those cells, greater than or equal to this array of cells over here. Let's solve it. Hey, we still get an answer. That's good. And we now see that we aren't spending $0 on each DC, and each DC got what they said they needed, so it looks like we're done. Let's look at things here. Maybe we're not done. It looks like we've shipped more from some factories than they actually had available to ship in the first place. So we have to figure out a way to handle this. See how some of these inventories down here are negative? Solver said that all these lamps have to come out of this factory because it's cheapest to do so. Problem is, that factory doesn't have that many. We know that when a factory ship all their available inventory in this cell down here should equal 0. So if all three of these cells equal 0, then we can say with confidence that each factory shipped out all that they had to ship. That sounds like we can create a constraint to model that business rule. We want F16 through H16 to equal 0. All right, let's enter that constraint in the model and try that logic out. Those three cells equal to this 0 cell over in the constraints table. Let's enter that constraint into the model. Hey, it looks like it worked. Or did it? Are we done yet? If we go into these changing cells and look around, we'll almost always see some decimal values in here. Maybe even they're just minuscule, millionth of a lamp, but still, it's not a whole number. Those decimal values mean the solver calculated that in order to minimize the cost, you could ship out half of a lamp from Peoria and the other half from Providence or something like that. Sometimes we have to adjust the formatting to check and find this error. We could also look at the resulting answer report if we wanted to see if we got into that kind of trouble. Then what's the answer on how to fix this? Hopefully we remember from the previous level 1 video the ability to force the changing cells to be an integer. Yes, so that will be our next constraint that'll solve that problem. Let me add it to the constraints table over here. No partial lamps. Int and then integer. Now I'll add it to the solver parameters box. Add all these changing cells. Now select int from this box and we're good to go. Again, don't type anything over in this box. Let me hit solve and hopefully we'll get all this ironed out. I don't see any partial cases now, so I think we're good to go. I do see that we've shipped more cases than we had demand for, but we can't store inventory at a factory for a variety of financial and warehousing space requirements. They do have to go somewhere. So where did they go and why? We'll have to look to see which of these total shipped cells is greater than its corresponding DC's demand. It looks like Nimrod got them. Why? Because it looks like they were the cheapest to ship to, and we have to minimize our costs, so look out Nimrod, you're getting a bunch of lava lamps. Since we're done with this worksheet and have the solver model working as we want it to, we now need to save it so that we can get back to this version if we accidentally modify it or break it in some way. There are several ways to do this. We could save the scenario like we did in the previous video, but that just saves the output of the model and not any of the parameters or the constraints. Another option lies in the fact that since the solver model is stored as properties of each individual worksheet, meaning we could have different solver models for each worksheet, we could just create a copy of this worksheet and then try to remember to keep our hands off this gold-plated one here. That still has risks, so now I'll show you the best way to save your solver work. If I open up my solver parameters box again, I see this load save button over here. I'll click on it and we get to this point. To save a model, here we go. Select an empty range of cells with 7 cells. Let me select that number of empty cells over here on the right in an open area and hit save. Let me hit close here and let's look and see what we have out here. That looks good. The next number down is the number of changing cells. These true values here are our three constraints. If they're true, then that means that they're satisfied and they aren't keeping us from finding a feasible answer. If any of these cells are false, then that means that the constraint formula in that cell is not currently satisfied by the values on this sheet. This cell is an array of all the parameters under the Options dialog button. Let's demonstrate the functionality of this when we would or could use it. If we open up Solver, we might want to experiment on the model by adding or deleting constraints, or even worse, we might click on the dreaded reset button and wipe everything out. If I do that, then our model is now completely empty. I can reload the saved models stored over here in these cells by clicking on the Load Save button. Next, I click on the Load button. To load an existing saved model, select the range of cells holding a saved model and click on the Load button. Ta-da! Everything's back. See you in the next video.